Hey everybody, this is Perch. And this video is going to be a little different because I wrote a mail to somebody. I got a response back. So I'm anxious to kind of read you the exchange and get your take on it. But the topic here is around Captain America. And in particular, I was looking at Captain America Sentinel of Liberty. Now, Captain America at Marvel is currently split into two titles, one featuring Sam Wilson Captain America, the other one featuring Steve Rogers Captain America. And they put the bigger art team certainly on the Sam Wilson one, which I give in fairness. I've said if you're going to try and do the mantle swap stuff, then, you need to put more high profile art, and creators on the mantle you're trying to swap. You can't do the swap and then put a, B-list creative team and expect it to work. So they're at least doing that. Sales are indicating that neither title is particularly selling amazingly well. They're both kind of hovering around the same place. Sam Wilson one, I think, selling slightly better, but that's primarily because of, again, the artist. But in the Steve Rogers version, we're in this storyline, which feels, it's definitely got shades of Brubaker and that run, because the basic concept is there's a shadowy conspiracy that is the Outer Ring, and that the Captain America shield was kind of designed to reveal this. It's the reasoning behind this has about as much logic as like a Nick Cage conspiracy theory. It's not the most, in-depth thought process, but, it's a shadowy enemy Cap has to fight against. Fine. Not the first time this has happened before, but in the grand scheme of things, as we'll get to in this video, I can't complain too much. But what struck me about this fourth issue, and this is by Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, is that the main point, Captain America looks miserable through this issue. He walks around mopey. He looks sad. They do a lot of stuff with furrowed brows. This is an unhappy Cap. He's sad. He's bummed. He's depressed. He talks to his buddy Bucky. They have a hug. He almost gives a smile during the hug, but mostly he just looks miserable. This is a miserable Captain America. The issue, though, is basically that there's this shadowy villain, this assassin, following Captain America around. And so Cap decides to inspire rather than fight the assassin. And so he does so by having conversations with people about what it means to be Captain America and what the shield, the symbol, means. And we get lots of scenes like, Captain America inspiring a child. The child then turns around and says, "You're my second favorite Cap." And this is, a little joke here and to kind of reference that. I don't, it's in there. You can either take it as kind of funny or not. And then Captain America goes to an art class where he's he gets some, and they whenever they want to draw the youth in Marvel, it's short, blue hair, nose ring. It's like, let's just really nail it in. That's all I know how to do. But anyway, the blue haired girl, basically says that, America is selfish and, and a symbol of corruption and injustice. And anyway, so it goes like, Cap's been fighting white supremacists. You got to throw that in there. And then Cap goes and talks to a bartender who talks about, the value of socialism and that he didn't take out a loan to afford the superhuman abs. And, it's fine, but it's this Cap questions America kind of narrative. And then they have the fight, and, his questioning of America somehow inspired this shadowy villain. And there you go. The challenge with this comic is that the plot of mopey Captain America questions the American ideal is played out. And when I say played out, it means Mark Waid did it. It means Brubaker certainly did it. It means Ta-Nehisi Coates did it. In fairness, Rick Remender didn't really do it, but almost every other writer has. It's been this long string of Cap realizes the darkness behind the American dream, and you get lots of scenes of Cap kind of looking sad, feeling down, having to carry the burdens of all the unhappy people, and have to admit that America isn't a very great place, but it's worth defending. But he's still saddened and burdened by it, and it wears you out. And what struck me is that I like this plot of Captain America questions America and has to figure out his place in it. When Mark Grunwald did it many, many, many years ago, which led to Cap taking the costume of the Captain. And, that was a good storyline, had a really good plot to it. Got to see what John Walker as Cap would look like. And it was good. But since that time, it feels like Marvel is stuck in endless repeat because they keep telling that same story over and over. And particularly in the last 12 years, that's almost all we've got out of Cap. That's what that's what they all have done. Nick Spencer did the same thing. That's it. Even during the Hydra cap, it was designed to hold a mirror to how lousy America was. And so I wrote this mail, and I'll read it to you to a one of the former writers of Captain America who's written Captain America the last 20 years. We go back and forth. Feel free to speculate. You won't guess it, but that's fine. And I wrote this. It says, "Hey, I'm reading the latest Captain America, and I want you to help answer something for me. Why is it that Marvel goes back to the same storyline with Captain America over and over again? I don't mind the Captain America is disenfranchised with the United States. It's fine when told, but when we're hearing it for the 12th time, I question if people have run out of ideas. Can you shed some light? Is there editorial direction that suggests that this is the only Captain America story they can do? Because we had a renaissance of James Bond films and spy films and action films, all of which Captain America could have easily played into. So why is it people go back to that same trope? Any ideas?" That was my mail. So I got an answer actually pretty quickly. And so I want to read that to you, and then we'll kind of react to it a little bit. So the answer goes, "Hey, good to hear from you." Okay, some bullshit here. And then we go down. It's like, "As to Captain America, it is true that editorial often sets direction of the book, and the pitch people want to hear right now for Captain America is him questioning the American ideal. I don't know why that is the only pitch they want to hear, but several other writers," and then he mentions a couple others, including Jason Aaron and others, "have tried to pitch different stories of Captain America, and the answer is always, unless he is in a team book, in which case Captain America needs to be a soldier and bravely fighting, but not have much personality, the storyline for Captain America has to be questioning the American ideal. My theory is that this has to do with fears that Captain America can be military propaganda, and thus they need to make sure that Steve is providing a counterbalance to that so they're not accused of falling into that trap. I don't know if this makes any sense to me. I'm with you. I'd like to see a different Captain America story. You'll notice I wrote different Captain America stories, but in fairness, I don't think they were very popular internally." And then there's some more stuff I won't get into. Okay, so let's unpack all this. First off, you're either with me or you're not. It's okay if you don't agree, but I think I have a pretty solid track record or pretty solid background of comics. Not me, but the comics themselves over the last 15 years. And if you look at them, the Ta-Nehisi Coates run was almost entirely Captain America questioning America. What does it mean? How does he rebuild? Nick Spencer had him as a villain, but it was still, portraying that general story. Brubaker did to some extent, but Brubaker was more spy thriller, and it was different. And, there's been other writers that have come in during this period. I mentioned Rick Remender. Rick Remender kind of did the Man Out of Time bit. He didn't really go too much into the Is the American Dream valid, but there were bits of it there. And then certainly this latest creative team is doing it. And then Mark Waid had a bit during there as well, where we tried to tell kind of an adventure story, but also had to tell the America story. So I think that the evidence is there. Whether you can like it, you can be along for this ride for all those comics. I think it is a fair statement, and interested to hear your disagreement, that has been the plot line Marvel has stuck with Captain America for quite some time now. That is it. I think the theory that a lot of people give online is like, well, the Marvel writers and the editors hate America, and that's what's going on. That may be true. Now, why you'd continually tell the same story over and over? Maybe you're embarrassed of the fact that it's a white blonde guy who's Captain America. I don't know. I think that's could be true for some. I don't think it's enough to create this constant story, because keep in mind, you've had several writers and several editors during this time period. It's not just the same people. It's been a parade of people who have all brought us the same story. The part of the mail that I found interesting, or at least, gave me something to think about, is this line of Marvel is afraid that it's going to be a propaganda comic if they don't expressly say that there's issues with America. I think this is nonsense. However, I think that thinking that is nonsense. But I think that that might be a bunch of the answer here, where Marvel does not want to be accused of putting out right-wing comics or military propaganda comics, and therefore they do this with Captain America, where even though he's in the Stars and Stripes, they often render him in jeans or a jacket. They have him with his mask off. They have him frowning. They have him, basically listening to some of the ills of America. That is pretty common. In fact, in this comic, issue number 4, we get a picture of Captain America in costume on the cover in kind of a background photograph. We get a silhouette with him during the credits page, and that's it. Every other shot has him in jeans and jacket, and that is the vast majority of the comic, just in civilian clothes. By the time we get more than 3/4 of the way through the comic, he finally confronts this assassin. But again, he's wearing jeans, the Captain America shirt, and a jacket over it. And he's not in costume. And so I got to thinking, we see these Alex Ross covers, we see these pictures of him in costume, but if I actually go back and look at previous comics, he's frequently not in costume. It's like they're downplaying the military aspect as much as humanly possible. And here's where I get to feeling like it's all very foolish. We saw during the Grunwald run, he did this story of Cap losing faith in America, certainly. He also did the Cap redeems himself. He did the Cap turns into a wolf. He turns Cap the Bloodstone Hunt, which is one of the best, short arcs that has been made. He did Cap Streets of Poison, where he's a drug addict. We got I think we even got Cap turned into a woman at one point during the Suprema arc. But regardless, we got a huge variety out of Grunwald's run. It was a good, nice long run, but it was huge variety. I think that's what Captain America can be. But if you're reading the Cap turns into a wolf, or Cap does Galactic Storm, or Cap gets addicted to drugs, or any of that kind of stuff, it didn't read like an ad for the Army. It read like a superhero book. It read like a spy book. It read like an adventure book. Especially the Bloodstone Hunt, it read like an adventure. None of that suggested to me, reading it, that I needed to go out and enlist. None of it read like American propaganda. It just read like an adventure. So my question is, why can't they just do that? Well, it takes creativity. It takes good writing. But the reality is, you can write a Captain America story, completely distance yourself from American propaganda and any kind of military recruitment process, and do just fine, without it having to be mopey Cap walks around and hears everything shitty about the country. You read this, and I wonder, who's reading this and going, yeah, because it feels less like an original comic book and a new story, and more like, you're going and you want a Snickers, so you go to the store and you buy a Snickers, and it's the same Snickers bar you've eaten for the last 50 years. It's I'm not 50, but anyway, it's the same thing you've eaten 500 times before. It's like McDonald's food. It's always going to taste the same. And, that can be comforting, and maybe that's comforting the people reading for the 500th time Captain America, talking to regular people who tell him that, that America isn't what we thought it was, and there's problems. And, one of the characters in here decides to say, this neighborhood started as a slave country. In the 1700s, over 40% of households in New York City had actual slaves. Why are we... What does this have to do with a comic? In all seriousness, why? They're trying to talk about how America changes and everything, but that combined with sad faces of Captain America looking miserable, what kind of comic is this? I think you can tell an adventure story, a superhero story, completely without having this kind of nonsense in it. And this isn't, by the way, me, saying it needs to be more pro-America. It's kind of the whole point. It doesn't. Have Captain America off searching for an ancient artifact, stopping AIM, getting involved in tracking down a new Masters of Evil. Rick Remender, for all his crazy stuff, had Captain America in Dimension Z with a adopted son who was a genetic clone of Zola. Tell us that story. I'm actually back at the point where Captain America... No, I guess it was Thor that Captain America turned into a space pirate during Jason Aaron's Avengers run earlier on. Hell, give me that. Just give us a story that's new. I'm not looking for them to have Captain America rush in and go, I'm here to save liberty and screw Bernie Sanders. Like, I don't need that. Nobody wants that. So I thought it was an interesting response. Curious what you think of it. Curious what you think of all of these takes. And let me know in the comments below. Thanks for listening.